You clicked on this video because you already know there is more to her body than the one place everyone talks about. You have been touching the same two spots for years and hoping that more time on those spots would finally do it. Somewhere you suspect you are lost, and you are tired of guessing from movies and from some forum at 2 in the morning. Good news, I am going to give you the actual map. Not opinion, not a porn tour. What the research and my clinical experience actually show. I am a doctor, I am a woman, and I am not going to waste your time with vague reassurance. Let's go. First, let's name the mistake. Most men do not have a map. They have a destination. They go to the breasts, they go between the legs, and they treat everything in between like hallway. That is not how to touch a woman. That is how you make 2 square inches do the job of an entire nervous system. Female erogenous zones are not a single prize you find and camp on. They are a network. If you only play one string, you do not get a song. You get a note that gets tired. Here is the brutal truth. A lot of women are not difficult. They are under-recruited. Their neck never came online. Their lower belly never came online. The inner thighs never came online. Then you arrive at the most sensitive tissue in the body with cold hands and a goal, and you wonder why she is polite. Polite is not arousal. Polite is manners covering a body that has not been invited yet. Recently, a man came into my office. Let's call him Arthur. Arthur is 58. He is not cruel. He is not lazy. He said, "Doc, I do everything they say. I spend time, I go down, I try to be gentle. And she still feels far away, like I am visiting a city and I only know the airport and the hotel." I asked him to tell me the last time, in order, without the movie version. He kissed her mouth. He touched her breasts for a bit. He put his hand between her legs. He thought that was the map. 2 stops. Then he waited for a reaction that never quite arrived. I told Arthur what I am going to tell you. You do not need a new woman. You need the rest of the streets. Let me give you the anatomy without putting you to sleep. The skin is not equally wired. Some areas have a dense crowd of nerve endings. Some areas are quieter, but they change the volume of the whole pelvis when you warm them first. The clitoris is not a tiny button. It is a structure with internal arms that wrap deeper than you think. The breasts are not just decoration. For many women, the underside and the area around the nipple matter more than a squeeze of the whole breast. The neck and the place just below the ear feed straight into the system that decides whether she can drop her shoulders. The lower belly sits over the same neighborhood as her uterus and bladder. When that wall softens, the door downstairs often softens with it. The inner thighs are not a rest stop. They are an on-ramp. If you skip the on-ramp and slam onto the highway, of course she tenses. This is why How to Please a Woman in Bed so often fails in the first 3 minutes. You started on the most demanding tissue before the rest of her body had voted yes. Now let's talk about what is happening psychologically, because this is the part nobody addresses. A woman does not get mapped like a car. She gets mapped like weather. The same spot that made her melt on Tuesday can feel like too much on Friday if she is stressed, touched out by the day, or not sure you are actually with her. So the map is not a rigid script you perform the same way every night. The map is a set of doors. You knock. You wait for the door to open. You do not kick it because a video told you this is an erogenous zone. Arthur asked me if there was a correct order. Yes, there is a smart order. Not because her body is a ritual, because blood flow and safety move from the edges toward the center better than they move from a sudden attack on the center. Start north and outside. Move south and inside. That is the skeleton. If she pulls your hand somewhere sooner, you listen. The map serves her, not your pride in finishing the tour. So here is the map, in the order I want you to learn it. Stay with this, because the late piece is not a secret zone. It is what you do when 2 zones talk to each other. First door, the mouth and the face, but not as a rush to get to the rest. Kiss her like you are not trying to unlock a level. Then leave the mouth, the line of the jaw, the place just under the ear, the side of the neck, not a vampire bite, a slow mouth, or a warm breath and lips. A lot of men treat the neck like a half-second courtesy. That is a fatal error. The neck is where many women decide whether they can stop managing the room. If her shoulders drop, you have information. If she stays stiff, you do not solve that by going lower faster. You stay here until the stiffness has somewhere to go, or you slow the whole night down. Second door. The shoulders, the collarbone, the upper chest above the breasts. This looks boring on a screen. In a real body, it is how you tell her you are not only here for the parts that make you hard. Flat hand, warm skin, no claw. You are not kneading dough. You are announcing that the whole torso is invited. Third door, the breasts. Listen closely because this is where good men still get sloppy. You do not grab. You do not go straight to the nipple like it is a button on a remote. You start at the underside, where the breast meets the ribs. You use the whole palm. You circle the area around the nipple before you touch the nipple. Some women want the nipple early and firm. Some women, especially after nursing, after surgery, after 50, want almost none of it, or they want it later, or they want it through fabric first. The map says visit. It does not say park here for 10 minutes of the same pinch. If she arches in, stay. If she angles away, you just got a clear answer. Move. No debate. No, why don't you like this? Fourth door. The lower belly, the waist, the small of the back. This is the street Arthur had never really walked. A hand resting low on her stomach, not poking, just there, often does more for how to turn a woman on than another minute on a dry clitoris. The low back, thumbs along either side of the spine, slow. You are not giving a spa performance. You are warming the bowl of the pelvis from the outside. When that bowl is still cold, the tissue between her legs is working uphill. Fifth door. The hips and the inner thighs. Not a drive-by on the way to the prize. Sit with this. The inner thigh, high up, close to where the leg meets the body, is one of the most honest female erogenous zones I can teach you without a diagram. Mouth or hand. Slow. You stay on the thigh long enough that she starts to want you to move in. That wanting is the point. If you arrive before she wants you there, you are early, even if you have been touching her for 20 minutes. Time on the wrong street does not count as arrival. Sixth door. The outer sex, the vulva, the clitoris, with lubricant and without a hunt. You do not dive. You rest the whole hand over her and wait for her to press up. That press is the invitation. Then glide. Pad of the finger, not the nail. Water-based lubricant is not an insult. It is how you stop turning a sensitive structure into sandpaper. You work around the clitoris before you camp on it. You use a slow circle or a short up and down. You do not rub her like you are trying to start a fire with 2 sticks. If the tissue is not swollen and wet yet, you just got data. Go back a door. Inner thighs, belly, neck, then return. That is how to please a woman. That is not failure. That is literacy. Seventh door. The entrance, shallow, only when the 6th door is already open. I have walked you through fingers before. I will not turn this into a branded trick. Palm up, shallow, the textured tissue toward her belly. Press, pull, release. You are not proving depth. And if you go inside with your body, the map does not disappear. A hand stays on the outside, or her hand stays, or you keep pubic contact on the clitoris. If the map ends the moment you penetrate, you just folded the paper up and threw it away at the only chapter you cared about. Now, the piece I told you to stay for. 2 zones at once. This is how a map becomes a night instead of a list. Her body is very good at tracking one polite stimulus. It is much worse at staying in control when 2 honest signals arrive from 2 connected places. Neck and breast, inner thigh and lower belly, inside shallow and outside light. You already heard me say that blended input is often what she cannot get from one move alone. So once a door is open, you do not abandon the previous door like you checked a box. You keep a hand or a mouth on the last place that worked while you open the next one. That is the difference between a man who touches a woman and a man who tours her. There is also a door most men never consider, and I want you to hear it without turning it into a fetish. The lower back. The back of the neck. The backs of the knees for some women. The ears. Not every woman. You test. You watch. If she goes quiet in a good way, stay. If she giggles because it tickles and the giggle is not heat, move on. Tickle is not arousal. Heat is arousal. Learn the difference in her, not in a comment section. Let me talk about pressure, because the map fails if the pressure is wrong. Think jeweler, not lumberjack. Broad, warm contact first. Specific, smaller contact second. Dry, sharp, fast contact last, and only if she is already very swollen and asking for it. A lot of you skip straight to specific and fast because that is what would work on you. You are not the instrument, she is. If she says harder, that is a gift. If she does not say it, do not assume harder is the upgrade. Often slower and slightly firmer on a wider area beats a pointed attack. And listen to the off-limits without taking it personally. After children, after menopause, after a bad exam, after a man who treated her breasts like stress balls, some doors are locked for a while. A locked door is not a verdict on your masculinity. It is history in tissue. You do not pick that lock with persistence. You work the open doors so well that trust has a reason to try the locked one later, or never. Never is allowed. How to please a woman in bed includes respecting a no that does not come with a speech. Arthur thought more time on the clitoris was the fix. I sent him home with a different homework. 10 minutes before he was allowed between her legs. Neck. Collarbone. Underside of the breasts. Lower belly. Inner thighs. Lubricant. Whole hand first. And a rule. If she did not press up into his hand, he was not to start a technique. He was to go back up the map. He came back 2 weeks later and said the strangest thing. He said she got impatient. She moved his hand. He had never had her move his hand before. That impatience is what you are building. A woman who is waiting for you to arrive is already on your side. Tonight, before you take this to bed, do not memorize it like a grocery list you will recite. Pick the 3 doors you always skip. For most of you, it will be the neck, the lower belly, and the inner thighs. Those 3. Give them real time, not a pass. Time. Watch which one changes her breathing. That one becomes your second instrument when you finally arrive at the center. If she does not finish, you still did not fail the map. You learned which streets are open in this woman, on this night. Tomorrow the weather may change. That is not chaos. That is a living body. The men who stay good lovers are not the men with one trick. They are the men who can read a map and take a detour without getting insulted. Let me give you the sequence so it is in your hands, not just in your head. Start at the mouth, then the neck, and stay until her shoulders tell you something. Move to collarbone and the upper chest as if those parts count. Breasts from the underside, around the nipple, not a grab. Lower belly and low back until the bowl of the pelvis feels warmer under your hand. Inner thighs until she is the one closing the distance. Whole hand between her legs. Lubricant. Around, then on, never dry, never as a race. Entrance only when that door is already wet and open. 2 zones at once when you can. When she gets close, you do not invent a new street. You stay on the street that got her there. That is the map of her body most men never learn. Not because it is hidden, because they were in a hurry to arrive, and they never noticed they skipped the city. If this helped you see her differently, share it with a man who is still touching 2 spots and calling it effort. Go down to the comments and tell me the honest one. Which part of her body have you been treating like hallway? I read them. Apply this tonight. Do not turn it into a guided tour she has to grade. Stay confident. I will see you in the next one, when we talk about how to touch her so she asks for more. Because a map is useless if your hands still move like you are fixing a truck.